Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q1 FY22 earnings conference call of Chambal Fertilisers and Chemicals Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Rishabh Barar from CDR India. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you. Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Chambal Fertilisers and Chemicals Q1 FY22 earnings call. We have with us today Mr. Gaurav Mathur, Managing Director, Mr. Abhay Baijal, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Rajveer Singh, Vice President, Legal and Company Secretary, Mr. Anuj Jain, Assistant Vice President Finance, and Mr. Ashish Srivastava, AVP Marketing. Before we get started, I would like to point out that some statements made or discussed on the conference call today may be forward-looking in nature and must be viewed in conjunction with the risks the company faces. Chambal Fertilisers and Chemicals does not undertake to update them. This statement in this regard is available for reference in the presentation. We will begin the call with opening remarks from Mr. Mathur. I would now like to invite Mr. Mathur to share his views. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rishabh. Good day and a very warm welcome to all of you participating on this call. We are glad that the COVID scenario has eased a little and hopefully continues to improve. In the middle of all this, we sincerely hope that you and your families are all safe. During the first quarter, the country has faced the second wave of COVID, resulting into lockdowns and disruption of normal activities. Despite all this, we were able to run our operations at normal level. The commodity cycle worldwide has also moved in the upward trajectory during the first quarter as prices of all commodities rose substantially. Given the backdrop of these challenges, we are satisfied with our performance during the quarter. Quickly touching upon the consolidated results, we achieved a total turnover of 3,547 crores during the quarter ended June 30th, 2021, as against rupees 3,226 crores during the corresponding quarter of the previous year. The profit after tax stood at rupees 381 crores against rupees 298 crores of the same quarter last year. Moving on to product-wise performance, urea sales stood at just over 8 lakh metric tons for the quarter, as against 8.9 lakh metric tons during the corresponding quarter last year. DAP sales of 2.34 lakh metric tons, MOP of 0.09 lakh metric tons, and NPK sales of 0.43 metric tons. We have achieved much better performance in the sales of crop protection products, especially nutrients and NPK fertilizers. Specialty nutrients and NPK fertilizers. The new marketing territories have also started yielding results. The monsoon was erratic initially, which has impacted demand to some extent. However, the recent rainfall has made up most of the initial deficit, and the reservoir levels are higher than the last year levels. Additionally, the trade and farmers last year chose to make advanced purchases on the back of pandemic-related anxieties. However, this trend was not visible this year. From an overall macro point of view, this year is very atypical. International prices of agri inputs and fertilizers have gone up substantially over the last 3 months to multi-year highs. We are seeing a significant rise world over in the price of corn, palm oil, and soya. This is particularly so in North America, where farmers are striving to increase production and willing to pay higher prices for DAP and complex fertilizers to achieve this. Hence, application levels of phosphatic and complex fertilizers in international markets are extremely high, and we believe it will continue to be so at least in the near term. In the backdrop of rising international prices of fertilizers, the industry is working closely with the government to identify the best course of action while keeping in mind the interests of all stakeholders. The Government of India has increased subsidy on P&K fertilizers to soften the impact of price rise, but further measures may be required to enable a smoother Rabi season. There is much improvement in subsidy payments by the Government of India, and market collections also remain healthy, enabling the company to maintain a strong liquidity position. Our overall focus continues to be on extending our product portfolio of agri-inputs, micronutrients, and crop protection chemicals, besides expanding the contribution of non-urea fertilizers. With that, we would be happy to now take your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may please press star, then 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star, then 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who wishes to ask questions, please press star, then 1. The first question is from the line of Amit Doshi from Care PMS. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, there is this news about IFFCO starting this production of nano urea, and which is probably considered to be far better in terms of absorptions, etc. So anything on that would you want to just throw some light on?
IFFCO has just launched this in the market, and we will look at the impact of nano over the next few years. On the whole, given the mass balance that is required and the nitrogen use efficiency, we expect that there might be some reduction in the use of urea, but also considering the fact that almost 25% or so of urea is imported into the country, I don't see any impact on Chambal with regard to its urea production or sales.
Okay. So does it mean that this IFFCO, this like patented, so only IFFCO can do it, or it's like an open patent? That's what the article indicated. So is it possible that even, say for example, I have 2 years hence or 1 year hence, if the results or production are same or very good, that Chambal could also kind of produce this product?
Yes. My understanding, Amit, is that the patent for nano urea is on the process and not on the product, and therefore any company which is able to develop this should be able to also market it.
Okay, fine. So that was one. Second, on the so of course it's good to see that we are growing in more states and we are becoming more nationwide player. So as far as urea is concerned, since our production is limited, how do we plan to cater to these additional jurisdictions? So we'll be doing more of trading in that space like we do in the non-urea space?
So as of now, we have no intention of trading in urea. And if you see, a number of plants are coming up in eastern part of India, and as and when they come up, it is likely that the Department of Fertilizers Movement Division, which allocates urea to states, will reduce our allocation to the eastern part, and some of that we will be able to use in other states. Now, having said that, there is also a distance, which is allowed for movement of urea, and therefore we will stay within that given our plant location. The third part is that we believe that to succeed in some of the new territories, it is not essential that we have urea. and our brand and our market practices, etc., will enable us to make inroads into the NPK market in those areas even without urea.
Okay. And the last one, so this, and what do you foresee a mix of sales in terms of NPK and urea going forward, say 2 years down the lane?
For Chambal specifically, so as you said, the urea production and sales is a sort of fixed number, and we intend to grow our NPK portfolio.
Okay, fine. So any contribution will be done. Okay. Thank you so much and wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Deepak Chitroda from PhillipCapital. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my question. So my first question is about, in the last conference call, you talked about our expansion plan, whether it is organically or inorganically. So any thought process, because last time you indicated about 6 months to 8 months where basically our strategy team are working on it. So basically we are thinking about in terms of, non-urea side or non-DAP side. So any further process, progress on that side, if you can throw some light on that.
Thanks, Deepak. So work is in progress on that front. And like I've indicated previously, we have 3 areas that we are exploring. One is phosphatics, the other is the crop protection domain, and the third is we have some, let's say, ammonia available at our facility in Gadepan. Can we use that to make something? So those are the areas that we are exploring, and as and when we have something concrete, we shall definitely inform.
Mm-hmm. So any timeline to that, sir, or maybe about, 6 months or maybe 1 or 2 quarters, something we can finalize that thing?
Yeah, let's say about 2 to 3 quarters. I mean, we are doing, obviously, as you can imagine, these are strategic issues, so we want to make sure that we do our homework well.
Sure. And sir, my second question, as you also highlighted something, some part of it in your opening remarks about the non-urea business, as you highlighted, considering the kind of subsidy support which government has already given, but with the current rise in the international prices, probably industry might require the additional support. So do you think that probably with the starting of the Rabi season, probably government might think about the additional subsidy support, or if it is not there, then probably might also increase MRPs?
So, Deepak, I think this discussion is happening through the Fertilizer Association of India with the government, and as and when the government decides on some course of action, I'm sure we will all hear about it.
I see. Okay. And my last question is, sir, about if you can give, some sense in terms of numbers for non-urea business, whether, how agrochemical growth we have seen for the quarter and what targets we have in mind in terms of the agrochemicals and the micronutrients which we have.
Yeah. So, like we said in the previous call also, we are focusing on this area, and I've mentioned in my opening statement. So I won't give you specific numbers, but as such, we have seen high double-digit growth in crop protection and specialty nutrient areas, and we hope that we will be able to continue that for the rest of the year.
Okay. So, if I look at the presentation, we have highlighted about 6 products. So those are our, the trading products, or we have just launched any new branded products, which we have launched for the quarter.
Yeah. So as we don't have any manufacturing of our own, essentially our portfolio of crop protection and micro and specialty nutrients is traded. And we have various kinds of arrangements with companies on those products.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pratik Tolia from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Thanks for giving me the opportunity and congrats on decent set of numbers. So firstly, just again on this agrochemical bit, you highlighted six new products. And so, if you could just talk us about a little bit about your product pipeline and what more can we expect during this year and maybe over the next 2 years on the product side, and also what sort of margins are we, looking at in the agrochemical business? Will it be in line with what we are doing already in urea, or it could be even higher than that?
So in terms of further products, we maybe Ashish, who is our head of sales, can add some thoughts over there. And as regards to margin, I don't think it would be fair of me to share that over on this call right now. But yeah, we do work with products which have a reasonably good margin. So Ashish, would you like to comment on your pipeline of products and our approach on that?
Yeah. So these six new products which you have mentioned in the presentation, they are all the products which are new age chemistries. Some of the products were launched in the country by MNCs, and these research molecules have come from Mitsui, from Nippon, and they've been launched in India by company like Bayer, by FMC, by Syngenta. So we have got the technical material from them to launch it in our brands. The total market size of these six products in India currently is around 650 crores. So, and they are growing molecules and new age chemistries. So we hope to gain some foothold in these new molecules going forward. And we look forward to launching it this year and making significant contributions from this.
Sure. And so what would be the product pipeline? I mean, how many products are we targeting over the next, in this current financial year? Any new products you are expecting, and even over the period of next 2 years? What is the sort of pipeline that we have?
Prateek, that is something that we are now working on further. And but for sure, as we see the new chemistries come in, which are both more effective and have a much better sustainability footprint, we will continue to do so. But as of now, we don't have a specific number of products lined up for the next 2 to 3 years, but that we will evolve, I suppose, as we work on our agrochemical strategy that I've mentioned.
Sure. And so if over the period of next 2 years, what would be your sort of internal target in terms of the contribution of agrochemical towards overall sales for our company? It could be in the high teens or would still remain in some sort of single digit, considering that we would also grow in the subsidy business.
Yeah, so we want to definitely, like I said, we are growing at a significant double digit this year, and we hope to replicate that every year. So on its own, we expect to, let's say, double our contribution. Now, what percentage that turns out to be of our overall portfolio will also depend on how much growth we will do on others. So I think that is, in my view, a little less relevant. What is more important is also how fast we are able to grow our agrochemicals and nutrients business.
Sure. Lastly, if Abhay sir can just help me with the landed gas cost for the quarter.
I'll let Anuj state that number, but on a ballpark, I can say it was between 10.5 to 12. So an average, Anuj can give you offline. What do you think that number?
Okay, sure. Thank you very much.
The last number that I have seen is 11.99. That is the latest.
11.99. 11.99. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Prateek.
Thank you.
Average gas pool price is around 10.3 or so for the quarter.
That is GCV basis.
GCV basis, yes.
Yeah.
GCV.
Agar must have given.
It means it is about 11.4 or so as far as it is 10% higher. So it will be about 11.3, 11.4 on a NCV basis, which is relevant.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohan from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good afternoon, and congratulations on such a strong set of numbers in the current quarter, sir. So a couple of questions from my side. First is on, sir, we have gained market share in our DAP. Though the industry has declined, but we have been able to increase our market share. So I just wanted to understand that it is basically coming from the other people's inability to procure more DAP, or it's basically expanding market or going into more regions that has helped us in gaining market share, sir.
Good afternoon, Rohan. So at this point in time, it is more from the share is more because there is an overall challenge. As you would know from public data, the overall DAP sales this year are lower compared to last year. So our market share is in that context that we have sustained and grown our market share in that context.
Okay. Sir, if you can just give some color on that, because phosphate prices have gone up further and has been continuously rising. If you can, sir, give some sense that how is the DAP prices and at what level and what prices we are negotiating DAP in the current quarter, and how is the availability and how much rise has been in the DAP prices versus last quarter. So can you give some color on that?
So I don't want to comment on this quarter per se, but as such, as we know, the prices have risen, which I mentioned in my opening remarks also. And, as these are all linked to global demand and supply, it becomes quite difficult to predict exactly what's going to happen. We are hopeful that in the coming months, we should see some downward trend, but at the same time, if the demand from Brazil, America continues to be very strong, it may not. So as an industry, I think, like I said in my opening remarks, it's a very, very atypical year. And therefore, making predictions is very hazardous in the current climate.
Okay. Sir, last time, when the prices cost gone up, government said that we need to keep the DAP prices at the March level, and they compensated it with higher subsidies. And I think that our DAP prices in the market was closer to 1,200 rupees per bag, if I'm not wrong. So the DAP and phosphate both have gone up now. Just wanted to understand some more clarity. What is the DAP pricing right now we have in the market for our customers? And second, is there any indication that we can get the higher subsidy from the government? And if not, then will we be in position to raise the prices in the market? We are already right now in August, so I think that the current season is very critical, and the demand is going to be bumper probably for July and August. So this current season is the most important season. So what is happening in the ground, sir, if you can give some sense?
So the DAP prices, Rohan, currently are 24,000 rupees a ton, which is essentially that's the market price for all entire industry. And what was the second part of your question?
So, sir, DAP at 1,200 rupees, this was basically at March level we had bought, but cost has gone up further. So, my question is, sir, will we be able to increase the prices further to the customer, or government is going to intervene or going to compensate with the higher subsidy? What is the current scenario?
That's the discussion, Rohan, which is happening with the government through the Fertilizer Association of India. And I think maybe we will see some outcome of that in the next couple of weeks' time.
But as of now, when we stand on 5th of August, we are still selling DAP at 1,200 rupees per bag, while the cost has significantly gone up what it was in months of April and May, right, sir?
Yeah, as of now, the prices remain 24,000 rupees a ton or 1,200 rupees a bag.
Okay. Sir, I may have some follow-up questions. Would like to come back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amish Kanani from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Congrats on a good set of numbers. Sir, two questions from my side. So we are expanding our, our regional offices as been shown in slide number 14. So if you can give us some sense of, where we are in terms of adding, say, dealers and retailers, in that context. So are we also simultaneously adding, and the numbers that are being mentioned is the increased one, or it will be a phased expansion beyond that? And in that context, sir, increasing our market share in non-urea was also quite, heartening and commendable. So we wanted to understand, what kind of arrangements are we doing in terms of, a long-term sourcing arrangement, which, makes us comfortable that, we will have these kind of market share, because as what you said, there's a global shortage of all these materials. How do we ensure that, we get the material and we make a distribution margin in that context, sir?
Okay. So, Amish, thank you for your question. So, for the first part, in terms of our network, I think we've had a quite sort of positive experience in the new territories, and the number of dealers that we had targeted to sign in this first year, we are well on track on that.
Mm-hmm.
As regards the second part in terms of sourcing, we are, this is one of the key focus areas for us, where we are working on a number of options, which is also part of our strategic outlook. And as and when we have something substantive, we will definitely come back. But on the plate are all possible options as we look to secure long-term sourcing on DAP and NPKs.
Okay, sir. Okay. And in that context, sir, two related questions. One, is it possible to give us some sense of how much of this quarter's gain was, say, sort of inventory stroke trading gain versus how much is, distribution margin? Because we would understand that, distribution margin will be much more sustainable. So if you can give us some color, of some split or directionally, some sense. And two, sir, is the inorganic strategy part of, planned strategy that you would consider in any of these areas where we want to expand? Thanks.
So I'll answer the second, and the first one, Abhay can answer. The second is that as part of our overall growth plans, all options are on the table. Abhay, over to you on the first part of the question.
There was definitely carry forward inventory, etc., which was there on March 31st. I think when we had a discussion last time, we had said that we had low-cost inventory. So that gain definitely has filtered through into the system. But I won't, this is a normal plus and minus that keeps going on every quarter. So won't be prudent to sort of reveal as to the extent of that. But I would suffice it to say that, these are normal pluses and minuses that happen. They are not all that significant in the total context of the distribution margin, as you said, because that is there. That is definitely also there because the prices also went up. The overall contribution went up. So because of the increase in subsidy. So I would say that it is there. I'm not saying that it's not there, but it is not all that relevant in the context of what we.
Okay, sir. Thanks, sir. And sir, one last question is about the dividend that we have received, from our JV or subsidiary. So anything on that? I understand that we have received a good dividend this quarter, which we had received last year also, but this year it's good. So any pattern there? I understand. Their board will decide, what kind of distribution they'll give. But if you can give us some underlying, profitability, which gives us some sense of, whether the dividend is one time or, it's slightly more sustainable. Thanks.
So I guess you can see from the consolidated results how the subsidiary has performed. And, with the phos asset prices high, you can make your own conclusions. Amish?
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
I'll just add that what the phos asset prices are. I think anybody can make a reasonable conclusion of what's going to happen in the.
Okay, sir. I appreciate that. Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. All the best.
Thank you, Amish.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vidit Shah from IIFL Capital. Please go ahead. Vidit Shah.
Hi.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thank you for taking my question. So my first question is just a continuation of the previous participant's question on the profitability at IMACID. Just wanted to understand your personal views on whether you see this bull run of phos acid continuing and for how long, or do you expect these prices to correct in the near or medium term?
So Vidit, let me give you a perspective. We have the joint venture with IMACID, and we are 1/3 partner. OCP of Morocco and Tata Chemicals are the two other partners. So there are 3 partners. We do not have any say in the marketing or sale of phos acid, right? And that is entirely dependent on OCP. So therefore, from an overall industry perspective, what I can say is that demand for phosphates continues to be high across the world on the back of high commodity demand and prices, like I mentioned in my opening statement. Beyond that, how the commercial aspects of phos acid pan out is OCP's decision and is not where Chambal has a say in it.
Okay, sir. Understood. Secondly, just wanted an overall picture on, so we've seen EBITDA grow pretty significantly this quarter. Sorry, revenue grow pretty significantly this quarter. So what would you say are the biggest drivers of these of the growth? I mean, is it just high subsidies that have been announced, or is there any bit of ammonia sales whose prices are through the roof as well right now?
Abhay, maybe you can explain, please.
I just say that you see the presentation, you will see that generally sales are a little down. Most of it is price inflation. As somebody clearly asked and understood that gas prices are on the rise. And gas cost is a pass-through, so that reflects back into the revenue. As also the sales that we have made on DAP and NPKs and even ammonia, as you rightly said, then also the prices have risen. So it's quite a bit of it is price effect.
Okay. Understood. And just one clarification I needed was, these new revised subsidies for phosphatics that were announced by the government, are they applicable only from the end of March, end of May when they were announced, or are they applicable for the entire quarter?
So the subsidy revision was announced on the 19th, and it's applicable from 20th of May till the 30th or 31st, whatever is the last date of October. That is the current announcement of the government. The Fertilizer Association is in discussion with the government on the way forward.
Okay, fine. Understood. I'll get back into you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Resham Jain from DSP Investment Managers. Please go ahead. Mr. Resham Jain, your line is unmuted. Please unmute the line from your side and proceed.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yes, please.
Hello. Yes. Sorry, good afternoon. So I have a couple of questions. So the first one is on the price increase in DAP which has happened post the announcement in May. And I presume that you might already have inventory for some more months. So by what time do you think government needs to come out with the revised subsidy amount beyond which industry may start making losses? Generally, I am saying without because different companies will have different inventory timelines. If something you can share your thoughts on that.
So, Resham, thanks. First of all, I cannot say whether what action the government will take, whether they will come up with higher subsidy or prices will increase. I cannot say that. So, but what I can say is that I think the government is apprised of the situation to take some decisions on it very, very soon. I would say in the next 1 week, 2 weeks maximum.
Okay. And on the current inventory which we are holding and with the current prices, is it fair to assume that we might be making a decent ROEs on that? Decent in the sense at least more than cost of capital?
So I think we also have to look at averaging and so on and so forth. So, I mean, we will be making, margins now exactly that will pan out as we see what action the government takes further.
Okay. Got it, sir. And lastly, on the chemical business, which you have talked about, ammonia plus kind of chemicals which you are looking at. Really, I was just thinking, whenever you are going to put up this new capex and all, what will be the key financial metrics you will look at, and what kind of attributes you will look for an investment? What are the things you will be looking for?
So we obviously want to look at an investment which serves us well long term, has a good enough IRR and return on capital.
Okay. Any threshold which you have?
I think I suppose you would understand that the exact IRR also depends on the strategic perspective. So clearly, if it's a low number, then it's not going to be worth doing it. So yeah, we would look at in the 12-15% range as a minimum.
Okay. Okay. And just one bookkeeping question. This year, what is the capex plan? The amount for FY22?
I don't have the answer.
I'll just answer that. We have a normal capex plan apart from efficiency and payback projects of the order of between 110 to 140 crores every year. These are also replacements which are normal because the plants are getting old. And apart from that, we have a phase-wise efficiency improvement program which we are going to execute on, or rather we have started executing on. One of them is worth about 55 to 60 crores. And that is due for completion sometime next year, first quarter.
Okay. Thank you, Baijal, sir. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhwanil Shah from iWealth Management. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for the opportunity. Am I audible, sir?
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Dhwani. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, a couple of questions. First was on the new the export ban which have come in China. So just wanted to check, sir, because we are at optimum utilization close to 102%. So is there any scope for our utilization to increase from here on?
You're asking with regard to urea?
Urea, yes, sir.
See, urea we are producing whatever we can to the maximum effect.
Mm-hmm.
And as you are aware, in Gadepan 3, we are, as per policy, limited to a certain number, 12.7 lakh metric tons. We can produce more if the government makes the policy change.
Okay.
And maybe produce 1 lakh to 1.2 lakh tons more. But that's a policy matter of the government, and I'm sure they will look at it in conjunction with all the other new plants that are coming up.
Okay. So currently we are at optimum. We cannot produce more than this.
No. We run our plants to a very high utilization level, which also helps us to keep our energy usage at a good number.
Okay. And with the overall imports also increasing in urea, and even with the end prices going up, are you all seeing any opportunity to put up more capex in this? Because historically we've been doing that, and now you've indicating more on the non-urea side. So just wanted to understand why we are not going in the urea where we are net importers.
I think if you look at the overall balance now with the new plants coming up, and I think in total, including us, there are 6. So that balance the import requirement will come down quite significantly. And as we are also driving balanced nutrition between N, P, K, F, right? So all of that will mean that over a period of time, the import will probably become reasonably less. Right? Therefore, as of now, we don't see any reason to evaluate putting up another plant.
Okay. And how much will be the new capacity, sir, will be coming in next 2 years, roughly, sir?
So in total, including ours, there are 6 plants, and each plant is 12.7 lakh tons. So that's about close to just short of 80 lakh tons, 8 million tons.
8 million ton, and then the new capacity which will be coming in, which you've been highlighted on the east side. You're saying there are new capacities which are coming.
Yeah, so there are plants of Hurl that are coming in, and other you've got Matix and so on. So these are all available, in the public domain, Dhwani.
Okay, I'll check. And just the last question was on our non-urea side of the business. With the prices rising from here on, how will that impact us, sir, going ahead?
So, like I've answered in response to the other question, so the Fertilizer Association of India, which is the industry body, is in discussion with the government, and we hope that we will see some outcome of that in the coming week or 2.
Okay. Great, sir. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you, Dhwani.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of Ravi, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Ravi.
Can you hear me?
Please go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, government has been pushing and promoting actually this nano fertilizer, which was developed by IFFCO, and they been claiming that they're around 25-30% cheaper and give around 80 to 35% higher yield. But I think, if I'm not wrong, it is a patented technology. So, is there any visibility whether they want to do the technology transfer or so that it can be produced at a larger scale and share with other companies in the sector?
Ravi, like I mentioned earlier, my understanding is that the patent on this is on the process. That means on how you make the nano urea, and it is not on the product itself, right? So that is one part of it, which in effect means that other companies can also develop it. The second part is that as we progress over the years, I think it will take, in my opinion, 2 to 3 years to exactly understand the full impact of nano urea. But overall, given the manufacturing capacity in the country and the imports, etc., like I mentioned, we do not foresee any impact on our urea.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Rohan from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir, and thank you once again for the follow-up. Sir, couple of questions once again. So first is on the strong cash flow generation which we are having in this year. We already had almost 500 crore free cash flow surplus in first quarter. I expect that almost for the year we are going to have close to 1,800 to 2,000 crores. As of now, we don't have even any short-term loan also. We only have a long-term debt where I don't think that management has any vision of repaying them earlier. So just wanted to understand, sir, this cash flow generation, as you already mentioned, that current year CapEx is only 120 to 130 crores. Where are this cash going to be, like only going to be they are going to invest it in a liquid asset or any plan that will come up to utilize this cash?
So, as such, like I said, we're developing the strategy. So, we don't have any specific thing in the immediate term to invest this cash. But on a short-term basis, that is being put into the appropriate instruments. And as we progress, we will then see how to use this cash. Arvind, you want to add something?
No, I think it's as and when we have, I think Mr. Mathur has mentioned about 3 verticals on phosphate side, on chemical side, and also on the ammonia and carbon dioxide hydrogen, which we have in the plant to monetize it from that. Now, all these projects typically of the quantum and other things that will require are about a 1 to 2 year process, I would say, in terms of only developing, conceptualizing, but also developing and taking it forward. And therefore, my own sense is that we will have accumulation of cash for the 1.5 years kind of time frame, and then our powder is dry. Somebody questioned us about inorganic acquisitions and all that. So we are well positioned to foil and to take care of some such options or opportunities that may come our way. So we feel that it is a good position to be in. We will be getting off the commodity cycle and thinking about 6-8 months' time. And then we have the opportunity to fish for assets as well. So it is good to keep the powder dry at this point.
Okay, but we will not reduce the long-term debt, right? And that is roughly 3,700 crore right now.
I would say that the long-term debt is at the moment at very attractive rates.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it is close to 2% or so, all told. And since we are sort of naturally hedged, so that doesn't make any difference to us. So at the moment, I don't think it's opportune. If tomorrow we feel that yes, it is better to pay off the debt, we can. We have all kind of options.
Right. How much is the repayment for the current year and next year in the long term?
I think we are running at the moment at around $106 million a year. One good thing that we have done is that instead of paying it half yearly, we have now moved the repayment cycle to quarterly. So that also improves a little bit on the duration and brings down the interest a little bit and makes sense.
$100 million per year we are looking, right?
Yeah, for the next 3 years, if I'm not wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anuj. Hello, Anuj?
Yeah.
It's about 106, and then it drops off to 80 and so on. I think.
Yeah. Roughly 700 crore rupees per year for next 3 years.
780
crore. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that means roughly another 800. Close to 2,400 crore anyhow will be reduction in long-term debt, which will continue to stick with the current position. Okay. So second is on our IMACID bit. So we have seen that there's a significant amount of increasing profitability of IMACID because of the rising phosphate prices. So any sense you can share that how the profitability of IMACID have increased, or the rock prices have been renegotiated with the original supplier and there is a limited profitability only in IMACID?
Yeah. So as it gets, it's not as if the rock prices remain constant. So rock input prices are also increased for IMACID, but from you can see from the results that still leaves a gap or positive gap between the output price of phosphoric acid and the increase of rock as an input, and that's what has resulted in the better earnings from IMACID.
Well, Rohan,
I mentioned earlier, the commercial aspect of it is not something in which Chambal has a say. That is entirely managed by OCP.
But I can only add here, Rohan, that a quarter that went is that the prices were actually 998.
Yeah, but sir, I think that current quarter prices have gone up to $1,160, right?
Yeah. So we are confident that, or rather, it is my sense that maybe I don't know what the current rock prices and everything are. Sulfur, I'm told, is pretty high. It has gone up to about 210 and so. But my sense is that maybe it is a similar kind of quarter, provided, of course, they can produce and sell.
So what I understand, if the prices of rock are on arm's length basis, then the profitability of IMACID, because right now there is the highest amount of profitability being made in phosphate acid conversion. So if the rock phosphate prices for the IMACID is on arm's length basis, then I see and I expect that there should be significant amount of profitability increase for IMACID should happen. So that's what I wanted to clarify, that
your guess is as good as mine in this. I can only say that on what 998 basis was the previous quarter. This year is 1160. This quarter is 1160. I hesitate to say what will happen in the third quarter. So we have to see quarter by quarter. This is quite a volatile kind of business, and we have seen that there are large swings between the peak and the median number.
Right. And the third question is, if I'm allowed to ask, sir, on your the capex plans which you mentioned on ammonia and chemical capex you are looking at. You already mentioned that close to 12 to 15% return profile you are looking minimum. I believe the company's ability, you have always been, as a company, you have always raised debt as a very, very liquidity prices globally. So even at maybe 12 to 15% ROC also probably it will be very solid ROE profile for that investment. What I just wanted to understand, sir, is ammonia and other chemicals which you are looking is mainly for the domestic purpose and the investment will be in domestically, or you are looking at global markets and global opportunities, or buying assets readily, or investing in creating assets. So if you can, sir, give some sense of that, that will be really helpful, sir.
Rohan, all I can say is it's too early for me to give you a sense on the questions that you are asking. Right? But we are exploring the full range of the opportunities so that we take a very considered decision on what we will do.
Okay, fine, sir. The question which I asked, because if I remember our earlier con call just only a quarter back, I think we were more confident about backward integration or getting into phosphate assets globally. But this ammonia and chemical capex you have brought, I think, in the current quarter. So I think that there are many investment plans which company is evaluating. Phosphate made sense because you already have a DAP market ready available, and you could have gone to backward integration by getting into manufacturing of that itself. But what I think that a bit confusing for us is that I think we have now many options, including even ammonia and other chemical complex which you just mentioned. So I just wanted to understand that what is the thought process?
These are not either or options necessarily, right? And our focus or our priority does remain the agro sector, as I mentioned earlier. So at the same time, if we have the opportunity, because we generate excess ammonia at our facility in Gadepan, so if we have the opportunity to monetize it in a better way, then that's the thought over here. Okay? So we already have ammonia at a reasonably low cost, right? And that does not take away on what we will do in the phosphatics or the crop protection segment at all.
I mean, it is not an either or situation.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Rohan.
Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants in this conference call, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. For any further questions, you may come back for a follow-up. The next question is from the line of Varshit Shah from Veto Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks, sir, for the opportunity, and congratulations on a great set of numbers. So my first question is on the industry demand supply matrix for phosphatic rock and phos acid. What I understand is there are Belarus-related challenges in phosphorus as well as this largely still behind, but still the risks remain. But some of the Canadian mines have increased supply of the rock. So maybe the rock prices might actually normalize, let's say going forward, at least be slightly less volatile. But the ability to process rock and produce phosphoric acid capacity is actually is largely based out of China, and where the exports they have sort of coming down out of China. So is there a situation which could come up in the next 6 months where the rock availability is still decent, but the phosphoric acid supply actually may be difficult because there are no processing capacities, and hence phosphoric acid continue to remain elevated? So I'm just asking from a risk perspective. I mean, of course, it would play out either way, none of us know.
Yeah. So, China does not export phos acid. China exports the finished product, DAP. And what we have to see is China is going through a phase where its immediate demand peaked, and they also had a price rise, so they're trying to manage that. And there is a possibility that this may be a short-term phenomena which may start to alleviate in the next couple of months' time.
Sure, that's helpful. Second, my question is on any update on the crop protection side. The call late. So you have a fantastic distribution in place, at least in your current market, and now you are venturing also into other markets within India. So probably it makes a lot of sense to expand that crop protection business, because now you will become a pan-India player from a distribution network perspective. So any progress on that, and how do you see that business panning out in over the next 2 to 3 year perspective? Because I understand you also have a business head in place now to head that business. So any thoughts around what kind of segments you want to target and molecules you want to target, or and how you see things shaping up from a 2 to 3 year perspective?
So Varshit, since you joined the call late, we have made very good double-digit growth on crop protection in the quarter that has gone by, and we expect to continue with that progress going forward. You have rightly mentioned that with the expansion that we've had into the new geographies, our access to a much larger crop protection market has opened up between Andhra, Telangana, Maharashtra. If I am not wrong with my numbers, it covers 40% or more of the crop protection market.
That's right.
We intend to introduce our products in some of these markets this year itself. As you would know, that crop protection requires licensing and so on in every state, sometimes district-wise, etc. So all that process is ongoing, and we expect to introduce in some of these territories crop protection products also. And over the next few years, we plan to, let's say, directionally grow our business to twice or more of what it is currently.
So that's helpful, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Madhav Marda from Fidelity International. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time once again. I just want to understand, when you mentioned about ammonia, would that be possibly making ammonia itself from natural gas, or would we be focusing more on ammonia derivatives? Anything you can clarify on that side?
So ammonia we already make through natural gas, which is then converted to urea, most of it. But because of the mass balance, and we generate a little bit of excess ammonia for technical reasons, and that is what we plan to utilize if it makes sense for downstream chemicals. Today we sell ammonia.
Okay. So the plan in the ammonia value chain is to make ammonia derivatives from the already excess ammonia available. We're not planning to expand capacity on that side, basically. That's not what the idea is.
That's right. Yeah. Today we sell ammonia, but if we are able to find options which allow us to add more value than just selling ammonia, then that's what we are looking at.
Okay. Understood. All right, sir. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh from Fiducia Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, very good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. My question were basically twofold. One was that I've been seeing a fantastic improvement in the operating structure of the business, wherein the operating margin have kind of more close to doubled in the last couple of years. My question is also a little long-termish as to where do you see the margins going forward, and what has caused what has brought up this fantastic improvement that has happened. So your comments would be very welcome on this.
I think Abhay, who's been part of this story, would be best. Maybe he can take this question.
Yeah, Mr. Rajesh, you see, we have added the plant 3, which was there in the works from 2016 onwards. It took us 3 years to 32 months plus to build up this plant. And there is a policy in the government of India to compensate new plants as per the new investment policy 2012. Now, we saw the opportunity that this could significantly improve the company's operating margin, and we took the risk with a large project of 6,000 crores, which is successfully completed. Now, part of the policy parameters allow us to operate at a return of capital, etc., which is significantly better. So that is one. Secondly, we have been improving or increasing our portfolio of traded products, and they are adding to EBITDA without significantly adding to assets, except working capital assets. And as you know, last year we have had also a very significant reduction of investment in working capital because the government cleared a very large proportion of outstanding subsidies. So with reduction in capital employed and addition to EBITDA and the new projects with new efficiencies and so on, albeit at a high capital investment of 6,000 crores. I think these are the three drivers how the company has been able to improve its operating rate, as you rightly put it. Hello.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
So, gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in this call and for your very good questions, very incisive questions, and we appreciate that. I hope you've got all the answers as best as we could provide them to you, and I hope that you continue to be safe in this situation, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Chambal Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited, that concludes this conference. We thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.